remarks as it pertains to the state of his economic policies. And the American people know it, and they've been trying to get away with this for the last several months with this president just continuing to blame Putin, but it's not true. And unfortunately, his comments overseas reveal the fact that he has no intention of changing policies. In fact, he said this is going to go as long as it takes. And I think that's what's particularly troubling heading into the 4th of July weekend.
But based on evidence that is so remarkably wrong. I mean, the difference, you don't have to be an economist to realize that 435 is bigger than 9. I mean, 430, it's this huge explosion of inflation before the Russian invasion, and it still goes up afterwards, but just a picayune point, a couple of points, 9 points to be precise. I mean, how can Americans look at that chart and not get it? And apparently they do if you look at the poll numbers, but he keeps trying to get this lie out there.
Yeah, there goes the media.
I think it's because he has no other thing to do or to say other than change policy, and he knows it, and the American people know it. And so that's why, I thanks to news organizations like Fox News, I mean, I think that the American people get it. They feel it in their pocket. They know, hey, last year I was spending a lot more on gas for the course of the year. This didn't just start in the invasion of Ukraine. And so the president's thinking that he can just get away with continuing to lie and send out different political messages, but it's just not going to work. And unfortunately, him trying to do that doesn't allow them to have a pivot moment where they say, hey, we're going to go in a different direction and we're actually going to walk away from our anti-energy policies.
Well, you know, the only thing slowing inflation down, just a small bit, is the economy slowing down. The economy is slowing down. The Atlanta Fed just came out with their prediction that, in fact, the second quarter is going to turn out to be a downturn of 1%. So that would be back-to-back quarters of contraction. You know, that's the first definition of a recession. I mean, are they, first of all, do you think the Atlanta Fed is right?
I do. I think that practically we're in the midst of a recession right now. I think to the extent that, you know, Powell is out there saying that the economy is strong, I think is more about him trying to continue to communicate to markets that he's not going to go in a different path and when it comes to quantitative tightening and raising interest rates.
Well, they are whistling past the graveyard, to use an old expression, and we put together a little montage of that, despite the fact that we had a bad negative print in the first quarter and possibly a negative print in the second quarter. This is what they're saying. Roll tape.
Took office, families are carrying less debt. Their average savings are up. A recent survey from the Federal Reserve found that more Americans feel financially comfortable than any time since the survey began in 2013.
It's clear that most consumers, even lower income households, continue to have buffer stocks of savings that will enable them to maintain spending.
Households are in very strong financial shape. They've still got a lot of excess savings from you know, forced saving from not being able to travel and things like that, and also from fiscal transfers.
You know, Russ, we're used to the lies about the economy coming out of Biden, but Yellen and Powell talking about this excess savings bit. Have you ever heard of a buffer stock of savings in an economy where 2/3 of the people say they live from paycheck to paycheck?
It's a very static argument. It's one that does not account for the fact that people are very nervous and trying to get a handle on how much inflation will impact and what they need to do with what is in their accounts. And many of them are having to dip into savings to pay for their spending for food and energy prices, but they're also making much more substantial decisions about investments. What do I spend that money on, because it's not going to be there in a year from now. And so the people get very restless and anxious, and it changes how people spend, and then if that, of course, has a further effect on inflation. So yeah, I cannot go along with this view that people are, you know, sitting on a ton of money and they're okay and they're feeling like we're in a good place. That's not where people are. And so I think this is one of those things where they say, you know, we're going to take a static measurement and make broad pronouncements about where the economy is right now.
And you know, both Biden and Yellen are now in the political sphere, but Powell's supposed to be above that, but what he said was purely political. Economically, he knows the reality of savings that you just outlined.
I think you're right, and he's been very political for quite some time now. I think with him, though, I do think that there's probably some sense in which he wants to make sure that people don't get the wrong impression that he'll be spooked by the market slowing down from his view that he needs to start tightening. And, we've been out there saying he needs to go more aggressive than he has.
Right. They're giving me a rap, but I got to show one thing we're probably not going to, as bad as the lies are coming out of the administration about the economy, I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that tweet from last July talking about how we all were going to be able to save money buying the ingredients of the barbecue. Do you?
I think we've moved on from that kind of nonsense for sure.
Yeah. There's the original, if you don't remember it. They kind of made a joke out of it, and that's something we can all relish, they say. And I mean, it was just, even at the time, it was absurd because we were in the midst of 5% annual inflation. All right, Russ Vogt, we wish you a very good and prosperous July 4th. Happy Independence Day to you and your family. We appreciate you coming on.
You too. Thanks, Dave.
Take care. Coming up.